So our first topic that we have is it necessary to study frame data? We have many people in the scene believe that you do not have to. I mean, you could just get in, have your fun, and you will be okay. Just fill it out and, everything will be good. But you have others that believe that you really do need to study since there's other people who are studying. You're not at the best you can be since they're going to have an edge over you since they know these things. So we'll give it to the panel. How do you guys feel about this? Starting with you, Devin. How do you feel about studying frame data?
Okay, so I'll say that from my personal experience, when I started getting like competitive in the fighting games, at first it was like an instinctive feeling. Like I feel like most players that are kind of adept at fighting games, they have like an instinctive like skill level, like as a base thing. And you can kind of fill out fighting games. Sometimes you can kind of, if somebody blocks something or you block something, like, oh, this feels like it's safe or I can punish. And I think that'll get you to a certain point, but I think the game where I started learning frame data was MKX, because they give it to you in the game, which I do applaud NRS for. That was one of the first games I saw where they just put the frame data in the games, so it's a lot easier for you to test stuff out and to see what's negative, what's unsafe, and what's safe. Because at one point, once you reach a certain threshold, you're like, why am I getting hit by this? Like, that's not safe. It looks like it's safe. It feels like it's safe, but yeah, I'm like I keep getting hit, so it's like, what's the problem? And the problem is like you don't really know like until you go to practice mode. Like, oh, that move is +5. That's why if I press a button here, I keep getting hit. And that's one of the things I had to learn. And now when I play fighting games, now I try to take more, be a little more careful to look at the frame data. Like even Grand Blue, I've been taking more notes in Grand Blue, Dragon Ball, just to see what's plus. Because if you don't know, you just don't know. And I think it's a lot better to have that knowledge of, oh, I know that move, what he did is such and such, instead of guessing like, oh, I think that's negative, and then you press a button and you get punished and you might get the round ender. So it's a lot better just to have that pool of knowledge to actually know, oh, I know that move that I just did is standing medium punch is +3, so he has to hold this. Or I know that what he just did was negative, so I can punish him. But if you're just kind of guessing at a certain point, once you get these like higher level opponents, they can kind of exploit that because they know and you don't. So it's like you can still kind of get somewhere with your just instinctive play. I think Poke Chop mentioned that when he was on the show a while back. He was like, he's more of an instinctive player. But again, you still have to know frame that he plays Tekken, so he has to know a little something, even though he feels he's more of an instinctual player. So I definitely think like it's necessary, especially in this day and age. There are certain games that, like MK11, mechanics change. Like flawless block literally changes the frame data on certain moves depending on whether you regular block it or flawless block it. Sometimes a move it'll stop a string. Like a string will be 2 hits, but if you flawless block it, it's only 1 hit. So I do think it's important to learn frame data in this arena that we're in nowadays in the FGC.
Um, I'm gonna go ahead at the beginning and say, and just personally, I don't think that it's necessary. And the reason I say it's not 100% necessary is because I mean, like for instance, I've been playing Soul Calibur for a while, and every time I ask, "Hey guys, do I need to learn frame data?" People are like, "Nah, you don't really need to learn frame data for the game." And the thing about it is like, I mean, I know the basic, like when I'm playing a match and I'm going up against somebody and something happens and I'm like, oh, I'm not safe on that. So if that happens during a match, what I do after the match is over, I go into practice mode and I go and test out what moves I can do after they do that move. Or I'll ask somebody else. I'll be like, hey, what can I do after that move? Like, are there like what exact like is that a like a really safe move? Like I'm not asking for numbers necessarily. I'm just asking you, is that a move that like is can you are you able to just mash and do whatever after that move? You know what I mean? And they'll be like, yes or no. They're like, or they'll be like, that's not true. That's not a true combo or whatever. And I'm like, oh, okay, like this, like that's a frame trap or whatever. I'm like, I can know something's a frame trap without having to know what the frames are. You know what I mean? Like I'm like, okay, that's definitely a spot where I'd like to mash, but I shouldn't be mashing because like they have priority, you know. And I think like in some cases you kind of like there might be some other games where you might need to know frame data. Like I think like maybe like a lot of people know frame data in Tekken, but I got like, I'm not like saying I'm the best person to ask, but I will say that I got decent. I was doing pretty decent, like without knowing frame data, mostly going off of like knowing like like how to how to play neutral better, or where to whether or not like I should like going up against like my instinct to like mash in places where I'm like, oh man, I definitely gotten like, nah man. I think it all comes down, for me, in my opinion, it comes all down to like practice and getting that like muscle memory. It's like, okay, I've seen this move before and I know for certain that I can't do anything doing this. And I mean, I think like frame data is like more of a like direct route to like, it's more of a like less circuitous route to like actually getting to that point where but I mean, I would say that like there's also the way of like just I mean, for the most part, just like pounding it, like just pounding it out, just like basically, like having like the stupidity knocked out of you every other match, like that's basically, I mean, that's how I play. Like that's how I play, man. I have the stupidity knocked out of me until I'm like, oh, you know what? I can't do that anymore. I know 100% certainty that I can't do that move. And there have been like, and there's been like matches where I've completely surprised people. They're like, yo, man, like I didn't like, did you study the frame data? I'm like, nah, bro, I just had the stupid knocked out of me several times. It's just like, it is what it is. Like eventually I'm going, like a fool can't remain a fool forever. So it's, for me, it's a lot more fun to learn that way, because I'd rather learn that way with like people, with my friends and people I know, than like going and being like, all right, well, I've got to go actually look at the numbers and be like, okay, this is +4, this is -8 and stuff like that. I'd rather do it that way, because I kind of, it's like a lot of times I end up being able to like, okay, I'm having to apply this stuff on the fly while I'm learning it, instead of like, going back, learning it, and then coming back. Because 9 times out of 10, you're going to have to learn about it after the match anyway. You're not going to like know right off the bat what that is, what exactly that means, and then you're going to ask your opponent during the tournament. It's like, oh, is that +8? Like, I mean, I don't know, man. Are they really, can you count on them to like give you the accurate information right then and there? Especially if they're fighting somebody and you ask them, hey, is that +8? And they'd be like, I don't know. I don't study frame data. So, I mean, they're hitting you with some, I mean, like, I don't know. Sometimes people beat you without even knowing the frame data. And that's like, you're over here respecting frames and they're kind of like doing whatever. And you're just like, I don't understand what's going on here. And because this person's gone so far off the reservation that like, it's like completely outside of your game plan, just because, you're counting frames. So I would say no, not necessary.
To be fair, so it depends on a couple things. So if you're new, no, don't do that. Just play the game. If you're a beginner, just play the game. It's fine. Cool. Easy. If you're playing a game that people don't play super competitively, also you don't really need to know, I think, unless you want to be a real sweater. But if you are like in a game you've been playing for a while and you're thinking about what you can do to make yourself more competitive, I think it's 100% necessary. What the main thing that people miss when they talk about frame data and numbers, they're usually throwing things around, is that they're just numbers. You have to take those numbers and apply it in certain situations. So like earlier, Amazing was like, yeah, I just know this is a frame trap. Okay. But if you know the frame data, you can, if you take like, let's say for an example, like, let's use a Dragon Ball example, right? So there are some characters in the game who have 7-frame jabs, and the fastest jab is 6 frames. But a couple of characters have 7-frame jabs. To you, it's just a frame trap no matter what. But because I know this, in Dragon Ball Season 1, I can get away with pressure on, let's say you play Android 16 or like Beerus or something. I could do pressure on you that I can't do to other characters, specifically because I know that you have a slower jab. And it's 1 frame slower, specifically, right? That your faster move is 7 frames. I could take advantage of these things and abuse you. And it's really, really important to know. And asking after, from a competitive perspective, asking after the set is too late. Yeah, you need to know this though beforehand if you're approaching this from a competitive perspective. And like Game and Lift said as well, there's some games where while you're blocking, you can change the advantage also between like things like Guilty Gear, where you have faultless defense and instant block, push block in Marvel, And these numbers matter because they immediately change the situation and what happens from the base. So while it's okay to know like this is a frame trap, I can't mash here, you might have the thing where I can actually mash because I could do something between either your move has some type of special property, or you coincidentally have something that's faster than other characters or slower, or you can't do something because you have something that's slower than other characters. These little things really affect the game from a competitive perspective, and I think if you're trying to like really like be a strong like regional or national level player, it's absolutely necessary. And the thing that people miss is like say for instance for me, I don't know how you guys feel about my play, it's not like I know all of the frame data in the game for every character, but you realize over time that characters have important moves that you need to know about, and there are situations that repeat themselves over and over in the game. So in these situations, you need to know these things and build out, like take what the number means and build out the situation so that it actually means something and it's not just a number. It's like this person has these options, I have these options. It's not like totally, you know, he's +8 or whatever, so I can't do these things. Like that's kind of rare. It's more about like building situations with the information you have about the game. So I think from a competitive perspective, it's 100% necessary.